Hey folks, lyarri here. Today reacting to Pro Controllers by Scott The Woz. I like learning about controllers and I like Scott The Woz, so let's go.
Hey y'all, Scott there. Competition's in the air tonight. Cats and dogs are beating the shit out of each other. Air hates fish, and Scott's fighting the urge to lose, which shouldn't be a problem with that fancy professional video game controller he brought to the chili cook-off.
Whoa.
Promised the kid in the hospital I'd win.
This is a controller. I mean, a joke. A joke! Gaming gets taken more seriously each and every year, which means it's now more socially acceptable to not be. Hence the rise of professional gaming. You take gaming so seriously, it's not just a hobby, it's a shirt. And you need the best tools at your disposal to perform. Only one of those words fit. If you really care about playing games optimally, surely you can't be using the regular controller that comes with the console.
So
I mean, look
true.
at this. Doesn't work. What you need is something made for people who give a damn. Crafted out of the finest materials, featuring options casual players couldn't fathom needing, yet professionals couldn't live without. What you need is a second job. Pro controllers. Game
That's funny.
controllers marketed as tools. Have you ever felt you weren't getting anywhere with the standard controller? What? Put my fault on a police lineup. I ain't picking it. It was that damn controller, I tell ya.
So
It didn't
true.
have any of the necessities for optimal gameplay. And now that I have them, this controller doesn't know when to quit! Now, you may think these professional controllers are more of a modern trend, though you'd be surprised to see how much they popped up back in the day. I mean, this was some serious shit. Here we have the Pro-Line trackball for Atari 2600 and 5200. Yeah, the trackball is for the experts. Throughout those early generations, anything straight out of the arcades was usually considered some pretty high-end stuff, which is
grandparents
probably why
had that.
Atari labeled these trackballs as Pro-Line. They aren't for professionals, rather, they're of the same quality as the arcades. Okay, well now they are. It's obvious Atari didn't give a damn about their usage of the term pro, evident not only by the trackballs, but the Atari 7800 standard controller. This was dubbed the Atari Pro Line joystick.
They had all
fair,
the
I've seen my
Atari
friends one of these.
controllers.
Now, the system itself was called the Pro System. That's like calling me somebody who thinks that makes sense. I guess Atari was trying to stick out amongst the competition by asserting they're the ones for those serious about their purchases. I mean, which one would you buy?
I'm not an idiot.
It's pretty silly looking back
Aw.
at controllers from this era being labeled as such, considering what they were used to play. I want only the best quality controllers to play my games. The term pro was entirely a marketing gimmick with these, just to make me feel better about the choices that led me here. Though with the Nintendo Entertainment,
I do feel like, if I remember correctly, weren't like some games designed for specific controllers? Like I do agree with the point that like they weren't like fancy or anything, but they still only had like 2 buttons or whatever. But like the controllers only had 2 buttons, so you needed a variety. I could be wrong. That's what I remember, like switching controllers based on the game. Also, like I swear I'm not actually old enough to have used an Atari 2600 like when it was new. It just my grandparents had one and I thought it was neat.
system, the professional-oriented controllers there made a bit more sense. Of course, the standard gamepad did the job, but I didn't want to do a job, I want to f*** it. The NES Advantage. This behemoth promises the professional feel of real arcade play right on the box. Such a high damn standard.
That is urine.
And while I don't think this
Oh.
controller is anywhere close to actual arcade quality, it's a fun one to use and has its place. Though it does open a whole new can of worms with what's considered a pro feature. We have turbo buttons included, which replace the need to match A or B repeatedly. You can just hold these instead and fire to your heart's content.
You are sterile.
Man. Wow, you're using the turbo buttons instead of mashing? Doesn't seem like a very professional thing to do. It's just interesting to me when pro controllers include things to make games way easier. It almost seems like something that would be more suited for newcomers, yet they're for the experts. And you know what else the experts like? That's right, I don't know what they like. The slow-mo feature. It just pauses and unpauses the game. Sometimes this can actually create
Oh,
a slow motion
funny.
effect, but other times The pause button brings up a menu or something, and it just makes me ask, this is stupid. With a question mark. No, don't get it twisted. I have a huge soft spot for this controller. I mean, how could you not? This is one striking design that just commands everybody's attention when it gets whipped out. The size and weight alongside the feel of the buttons gives this controller such a frankly professional quality. I wouldn't call it essential. Rather,
pretty much
just
the
kind
same
of fun and
thing.
novel to use from time to time.
What?
Well, that's not professional. That's fun! That's why we're going elsewhere for our expert gamepad on NES. And I think that's gonna be the Archer Competition Controller. What competition is this best suited for? Who's blue? With this controller, you should get that checked out. A pop-on joystick for the D-pad. Yeah, sure, that's useful.
That goes so hard.
I used it. To be fair, this can come in handy to deter Nintendo Thumb, as it was called. If this D-pad was a bit sharp during intense game sessions, you're more likely to press down on it harder, even though that doesn't affect anything other than my future. The joystick topper makes it a bit less painful to hold any direction for an extended period of time, but I doubt that's how most people used it back then. I think when many see a joystick, the worst of humanity is brought out. But man, this controller is on a stink kick lately. It'll work sometimes, but the buttons are so mushy, it might as well not. Then other times, yeah, might as well not. It's not all a waste, though. I think the controller's ergonomics are actually a bit better than the standard NES gamepad. The things are more stretched out. We got room to breathe, especially considering the extended cord length, because us professionals, we have living rooms. You got some switches to enable different levels of turbo on either button, which is good because you ever have that game where you want to have a little bit of turbo on the B button but all the turbo on the A? Mom, it happened again! Well, this was a consistent feature on these things. And just check out the SNES Super Advantage.
Wow.
Holy moly, there's like more than 11, all in a design meant to mimic the actual Super Nintendo console. But not just the North American version, the European one as well. We have the
That goes
purple switches,
hard.
but the colored buttons. Plus these middle ones here remind me of the power, reset, and eject portion of Europe system. It's a fun style and really hits home how big the controller is when you can basically replicate the whole damn system on it. Though part of me feels like all these additions were done to fill up all that space. Is this really necessary? Duh, you stupid question. I forgot the B dial saved my parents' marriage. So we can select turbo or auto for any button,
Good
which
point.
fires automatically for you, while also individually adjusting the speed, which you can also do with the slow motion feature now. With this controller, I can finally play Super Mario World professionally. I'm looking to go full time. While this is the successor to the NES Advantage, it wasn't made directly by Nintendo. Instead, ASCIIware created this and then got the blessing of Nintendo's license. They've done loads of other controllers, and many of which retain multiple turbo switches, which, thanks, but I gotta ask, how many people actually took advantage of this?
I never used turbo button.
Nah. You may just get more use out of the Pro features on the Atari Jaguar Pro controller. Oh my god. Have you ever played an Atari Jaguar?
No.
Some professional. This thing right here is one of the rare controllers out there. Now, why is that?
dial
There wasn't a
someone.
ton of people who owned an Atari Jaguar looking to maximize their gameplay potential? No. This was released in 1995, 2 years after the console's launch, and I'll do you one better, one before the console was discontinued. Great time to invest in enhancing my skills. The original Jaguar controller I consider to be one of the worst controllers of all time, much like how I'm considered one of the worst controller critics. Damn. This actually ain't that bad, it's just kinda dumb. The feel of it is fine. The face buttons, who cares? The numeric keypad?
Why?
It's unnecessary. You have a controller with 17 buttons on it, so you release a Pro controller with 5 more? This was something Sega did with the Genesis. When it was obvious many games were compromising to play with the standard 3-button controller, they released an updated 6-button version, so I assume Atari looked at this and went, oh, so that's our problem. The Jaguar Pro controller has been ergonomically planned to deliver a sleek new shape with additional buttons for more precise control. A new shape? Where was the press conference? And ergonomically planned? Just say buy me. Because of its late release, most Jaguar games aren't designed around these buttons, though using this controller for them, these act as secondary ways to press some of these number keys here. So yeah, instead of taking one of the great adventures of our time to hit 9, you can press X instead. A handful of titles do support the thing in more dedicated ways. It's easy to say, this is the definitive Jaguar controller.
That was the best shit I ever took!
Throughout all this, most competition or professional controllers basically got their namesake for turbo functionality and or including something akin to arcades. But if this is the kind of stuff allowed in a competitive environment, man, just use poison. Turbo buttons sort of died out after the SNES and Genesis era, at least when it came to being a huge selling point for specialty controllers. Mainly because the only titles I feel that these made sense for were shoot 'em ups, and by this point in gaming, there weren't nearly as many around, and when they were, they oftentimes had auto-fire baked into the game itself. For most other games, mashing the buttons quickly is a gameplay mechanic, like in a Mario Party minigame. If you just use a turbo button, well, that's no fun. Yeah, you can play these however you want, I don't care, but the entire point of a competitive game is to play by a set of rules, because if you don't, well, why the hell are you playing? Which brings us to more modern interpretations of the Pro Controller. Launching alongside the Wii in 2006 was the alternative gamepad, the Wii Classic Controller. Introducing such a striking new controller was pretty saucy at the time, so this was meant to not only play classic games on the Virtual Console, but offer a more traditional solution to controlling some new Wii titles. Problem was, this name ain't a lie, it's pretty much based entirely on the original Super Nintendo controller, with a few modern fixins like triggers. You know triggers,
Ow.
right? Those things that are like big anthills but have the applesauce in them instead? Okay, good, we're not on the same page, so these can't
Completely.
possibly piss you off. Instead of having triggers below the shoulder buttons, these are small little tic-tacs
I
next
hated
to them.
this.
Meaning if you're playing Call of Duty with this controller, this is aim and this is shoot.
Works for me.
The thumbsticks are also pretty close together. I mean, my thumbs have done more than kiss with this controller. And the overall size and shape, it's just not ideal for modern games. It works, but there's a reason standard controllers look like this now. Well,
Yeah.
what's standard for most is professional to Nintendo, introducing the Classic Controller Pro. Basically, a PlayStation 2 controller. This is neither classic nor is it pro. I think what always killed the classic controllers for me was the weight of them. See, they're powered by plugging them into the Wii remote, so at the end of the day, what's actually going on inside here? This isn't professional. This is the bare minimum for a standard controller. With that being said, I do think these are good for what they are. The Classic Controller is great for retro titles, while the Classic Controller Pro is far better for playing more traditional, modern ones. Everything is slightly adjusted to be better suited for games utilizing the analog sticks and triggers, with the latter now resting below the shoulder buttons with an increased size, making them
Innovation.
actually usable now. Though, strangely, the original featured analog shoulder buttons, which were completely removed. Now, I thought these were never used, but lo and behold, popping any Need for Speed game for Wii in, you'll notice these take full advantage of the feature. Now, having analog triggers is like getting your roof retiled.
You don't need it.
The games that benefit the most from these are simulation racers, and how many did the Wii have? I got bored while answering and started to play Poke Park instead. Yeah, that's just not the kind of game you're gonna be playing on Wii in the first place, and on top of that, analog triggers aren't needed here. They're just kind of sensible. So, did you really lose anything of worth? Because even if you knew the Wii Classic Controller had analog triggers, I doubt you ever played a game that used them. But it's weird, because ever since the Classic Controller Pro, Nintendo's been vehemently against these types of triggers after including them on not only the Classic Controller, but the GameCube controller as well. In fact, they designed a whole ass game around them, Super Mario Sunshine. Then when they
I thought they were
re-released it on
cool.
systems without analog, they had to come up with some bullshit way to work around them. Why did they think they never need these again when they used them in the past and both of their competitors have them as a standard while they jam a damn IR camera in there? Like, that's more useful? Well, I like the Classic controllers. I can't help but feel they were wasted opportunities. Barely any of Nintendo's own titles used them outside of Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, while many could have desperately used a more traditional control scheme. And with those analog triggers, it baffles me how you couldn't use this to play GameCube games through backwards compatibility. You can select the disc channel with the Classic controller to play GameCube games. You have all the buttons needed here. Most Wii titles that support one support the other. But no, you can't even use the GameCube controller to select the disc channel. I'm in hell.
This is better than I expected.
Well, Nintendo kept the professional's dream alive, moving into the Wii U era, keeping some of the branding, but all of the... Nope! If you're releasing a console with a controller like the Wii U's, you may be inclined to offer an alternative.
Why?
Unlike the classic controllers, this is its own entity. It doesn't need no Wii remote tethered to it. This is an actual controller. But is it really pro-grade? Well, let's take a look at the features here. No motion control, no NFC reader, no IR blaster, no microphone, no camera. Wow! This is for professionals!
I'm fucking miserable.
Back during this era in gaming, when motion controls were being pushed as damn near useful, many people have become increasingly agitated at these things, thinking that's not what gaming is, this is!
I'm fucking miserable.
It was easy to write anything off that used motion controls, though nowadays, I think we all know balance is the answer here. The motion controls can be unbelievably useful and improve a game tenfold, but we're talking good motion control. Then what does that make this? Because of the stigma, I don't blame Nintendo for making the Wii U Pro controller so damn limited. And plus, it kept the cost down to a cool mortgage payment. But due to this thing being just a controller with no bells or whistles, and the Wii U itself being way too reliant on the gamepad, it made the Wii U Pro controller way less practically useful than it deserved to be. So many games, for no reason, just don't support it. Or if they do, you sometimes have to use the gamepad for certain sections, like with a few stages in Super Mario 3D World and in some areas in Breath of the Wild. They require motion to complete puzzles. And on top of that, without the precision you get with gyro aiming, using a bow and arrow in that game is significantly worse with just the Pro Controller. Sometimes you have to boot a game up with the gamepad, then swap over to the Pro Controller. The most egregious example is Pokken Tournament. You need the gamepad to create a new save file. That's it. This kind of support I could tolerate with the classic controllers because those were never advertised as anything more than kind of a novelty. The Wii U Pro Controller, I think everybody who bought this was expecting to actually use it, but then we were all met with a knock at the door.
Ben.
I'm pissed! Well, most Wii U games you'd want to play are compatible with this. Its implementation with the system and games as a whole leaves a lot to be desired. And that's not even considering what my thumbs gotta do. Ah! Both thumbsticks at the top? Now, this is replicating where these things are on the Wii U gamepad. One problem, the silhouettes are as follows. Xbox 360 controller, slab. A design like this makes a hell of a lot more sense to have the thumbsticks where they are because it's so damn big. It's real easy to hop between stick and butt. Here, I mean, just because you can have this button placement doesn't mean you should. Just feels wrong to have the buttons down here, but thankfully, due to the battery life, it can feel wrong for roughly 80 hours. So that's what makes this a Pro Controller, having an open 80 hours. Well, hot damn, that's pretty professional. Just like the lack of features, high price tag, and half-ass compatibility. Can you tell I know what I'm doing? Thankfully, the next generation with the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller solved almost all of my issues with its predecessor. Practically a one-to-one compatibility with the full library. You'll find a few titles that won't work with it, but they're mostly games that heavily use Wii Remote-like motion controls or features that wouldn't make sense with a more traditional gamepad. Motion controls, NFC support, a killer ergonomic design. This has everything needed to make for a worthwhile investment, rather than something I was constantly trying to find worth in. It has 40 hours of battery life, but I have 80 hours of free time. Outside of that blunder, the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller is one of my favorite gamepads of all time.
I like the Nintendo Switch Pro. But one element
may stop it from being considered truly professional. Hit up on the D-pad.
Okay.
Most of Nintendo's D-pads have a ball underneath to ensure you're only pressing one direction at a time, including horizontals. And it's not that the Switch Pro Controller doesn't have this,
put on your head.
It just doesn't feel like it. You can press the whole damn thing down and all directions will fire off. Meaning this is the sloppiest D-pad they've ever made. It's damn easy to hit right, but guess what? The D-pad reads it as down right, or hell, even straight up down depending on how you press it. Pretty wild how you can't win with either Switch controller. On the Joy-Con, you have the harshest, lamest buttons to press for your D-pad. But hey, at least there's no way it can misread the direction like the Pro Controller. In most cases, I'd rather just use the thumbstick for games I'd usually prefer a D-pad in. This is really unfortunate. It's nowhere near a deal breaker, but definitely something that holds this thing back from perfection. That, and it doesn't last 41 hours.
So that's what's been stinking up the place.
It all comes down to the most professional controllers available for the most professional consoles, PlayStation and Xbox. These are already often considered the hardcore system, so naturally we have some controllers catered towards those who need that extra layer of overcompensation.
Oh man, get away from my penis now, fellas.
At E3 2015, Microsoft introduced the Xbox Elite controller for Xbox One, considering it to be an elite controller for elite gamers. So then this must be the skunk-ass controller for the skunk-ass gamers. Elite's been the Xbox brand's go-to word for something that's ultimate or professional, like the Xbox 360 Elite, featuring the biggest hard drive and usually some pack-in games. My cock is a Titan. So naming a controller designed for hardcore players this, it just makes sense, especially when we take a look at the feature set. Complete customization, interchangeable magnetic thumbsticks, D-pads, optional back paddles, hair trigger locks, a price tag of $149.99, a Scott making poor financial decisions, a Scott without money, a Scott with an Elite controller though. Yep, this thing was meant for the people who cared about all these extra features enough to warrant blowing 150 big boys on a damn video game controller. Outside of the more premium build quality, I don't see regular players getting anything out of this for the price. But if you're somebody who knows why you need back paddles, this is for you.
Why do I need back paddles?
Alright, so you may be playing a game where you want your thumbs on the sticks at all times, and reaching over to that pesky D-pad, well, a lot can happen during that movement.
I was just elected senator!
You can map whatever buttons to these, making it so then you can easily access anything while keeping your thumbsticks warm. I can definitely see the value in these. They add functionality to make high-level play more fluid without feeling like you're cheating. I don't really think many games are designed around the concept that your thumb leaves a stick to hit the X button, so these are an excellent pro feature. And hey, if you don't like them here, you can flick them out at a moment's notice thanks to some magnets at play, which is also the case for the thumbsticks and D-pads. Xbox D-pads respect tradition.
This sucks!
So to have this one continue that is admirable. Yeah, no matter how many times Xbox controllers try out new D-pads, they always range from deplorable to not the greatest. We have two designs we can use on the Elite. This one that's pretty much the same as the standard Xbox One controller, and this one that's more soap dish than anything. This is integral for fighting games, where you need fast movement from one direction to another while inputting every direction in between. However, for any other game, this is sort of stinky. But to be fair, that's why it's an option, much like the thumbsticks. Oh man, I can pretend to have all kinds of preferences with these. With a setup like this, I can finally wear this shirt. The switch to lock how deep the triggers push in is a nice addition. The controller comes in a fantastic case. Everything feels rock solid, incredibly substantial with a great weight to it all. This was easily the best controller Microsoft had ever created. And at that price, it reached the bare minimum of what it needed to do. But it ain't perfect. For one, I think it's still wild how insistent Microsoft is on not making a rechargeable battery the standard with Xbox controllers. This thing even comes bundled with a USB cable so you can plug it in and use it as a wired controller. But you can't charge it without forking over more money for a play and charge kit. How are you charging me this much and a rechargeable battery isn't a part of that?
That's insane.
Honestly, as cool as the interchangeable magnetic thumbsticks are, they don't feel good during gameplay for me. They feel weightier due to the more premium materials and possibly the magnets as well. I don't know. But either way, I feel less in control with these, strangely enough. The added weight makes using the standard controller's thumbsticks a bit snappier. And now I know what you must be saying.
Scott, your thumb's a bitch.
Which is why I chalk this up to a me issue. The Elite controller is as premium as you can get. Most of the features that make it premium, I'm never gonna use or actively prefer how they are on the original. But this is an excellent product. $100 more excellent? I mean, that's up to you, man. But me personally, I don't think this really offers anything for 95% of consumers out there. For the 5%, this is a must buy, but I feel that most of the people who bought this never use any of what makes it so expensive. They just wanted the Elite controller because, oh, only the best for my video gamer. Well, Microsoft struck again 4 years later at E3 2019, revealing the Elite controller Series 2, and one of my biggest problems was fixed. You know, I thought the price tag of $150 just didn't add up. So Microsoft added more. For $180, we get a more refined controller with some complaints addressed, such as the lack of a rechargeable battery. Well, that's here now, whether you like it or not. I think it would have been cool if AA's were still an option. I know I complained about using them with the Series 1, but I've always appreciated how, while it is annoying you have to buy a battery pack separately, you can choose one or the other. But here with the Series 2, it's rechargeable and only rechargeable. They did what I asked.
Those bastards.
We can now adjust the
SMH.
tension of the thumbsticks. I barely notice a difference. I'm not saying this feature doesn't work. Rather, I'm not the target for it. Another level for the hair trigger locks, a new rubberized grip that feels very nice, a third button configuration preset you can swap between, Bluetooth connectivity. This is better than Series 1 in nearly every way. Nearly! Microsoft later offered the Elite Series 2 Core, which is basically just the bare essentials with extras like the case, back pedals, different thumbsticks, and D-pads being available separately. It's still $130. $20 cheaper than the original Elite, where you got everything. You know, cost-wise, I totally get it, and I'm not saying this isn't worthy of being that high of a price. The Xbox Elite controllers are some of the most finely crafted accessories in all of gaming. It's just, for over 2 to 3 times the price of a perfectly functional standard controller, for me personally, I'm not sure what they could include here to really win me over. Every Xbox game is designed to work with this controller, a controller that's already pretty expensive at $60, so it's not like this is at a low quality or anything. So when we move over to the Elite controllers, the features are nice and cool or whatever, but most Xbox games I'm playing nowadays are pretty well designed when it comes to an optimal button layout with this thing. And even if they aren't, I don't really care. If I gotta create a custom button configuration to fix a game, more often than not, it's a game that's not worth playing in the first place. I don't play too many competitive multiplayer games on Xbox, and when I do, most of the time, I'm perfectly content with the default button layout. I've never needed the triggers to work any way other than how they've always worked. I've never desired for my thumbsticks to be taller than me. After messing around with these, it's become very apparent that while I appreciate and respect the hell out of these products for their level of customization and tremendous build quality, I get nothing out of this. Well, outside of owning very expensive controllers.
Holy come awesome.
Maybe a cheaper one would do the trick. Here we have the eSwap S Pro controller by Thrustmaster.
They're really good at it.
Thrustmaster
That looks
mostly
ugly.
specializes in racing wheels, flight sticks, but traditional gamepads don't seem to be their immediate forte. Fully licensed by Xbox, but that doesn't mean a damn thing. Let's see, hair trigger locks for the triggers, USB-C, interchangeable thumbsticks. This just seems like a third-party Elite controller. But fair enough, you know, if you don't want to blow $130 on the official one, you can do it on this one instead. What the hell is the point of this when it's the same price as the first-party alternative? Maybe because it's actually better than the first-party alternative. That's right, I'm wrong. I really dug this controller.
Oh.
Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be a go-to for me, but at the very least, I preferred it to the Elite because, well, it's different. It has a different design, different feeling buttons. The Elite is sort of the exact same as a normal Xbox controller, just using more premium materials. With the eSwap, I have more of a reason to use this over something else. The buttons and D-pad are designed to be lightning fast to press down on,
those
using
look fun.
micro switches, which makes them far clickier, yet all the more satisfying. I feel way more in control with this. Plus, I get most of the pro features of the Elite, but with a Thrustmaster twist. We pop the entire thumbstick out here, which allows for more customization possibilities outside of Vertigo. Because these don't really change the functionality of the stick. Here, I mean, we can put a damn racing wheel module in. If one of the sticks is having issues, we can swap them out. And popping this in feels way more solid than the magnetic sticks on the Elite. I think this is a fantastic controller. The Elite may feel more premium, but this feels more practical and functional. I'm gonna go tell the world that I'm pissed! Not wireless for $130. Hey, why not? Call me
No.
ugly while you're at it too. And looking at online
was so
reviews, it
perfect.
seems that many people have had the thumbsticks die on them just a few weeks in. Take notice, anything with less than a 4.5 on Amazon, run. So this controller does have its problems.
Yeah.
The bit of time I've spent with it does affirm to me why the Elite controller didn't necessarily win me over, and I'm willing to give this the benefit of the doubt and primarily use it from this point forward.
Thousands dead and no survivors. In tragic news, Scott's thumbstick stopped working.
Man. Well, after Microsoft proved the validity of these more premium controllers, leave it to Sony to do the same goddamn thing, just more expensive. Introducing the DualSense Edge for PlayStation 5. $200? Half the price of the damn console, and we have less features than the Elite! There's only 2 back buttons, and it has a significantly worse battery life than the normal DualSense, which already has lame-ass battery life. And I'm sorry, but I just can't feel a substantial difference between this and a regular DualSense, at least in comparison to the leap between Xbox controllers. The Edge feels heavier, but I don't feel that $130 increase here. Like many of these Pro controllers, it mostly comes down to the customization. We have these function buttons on the bottom, optional back pedals that we can assign things to, that we can swap out the thumbsticks. There is value to all of this, and at the end of the day, it's the DualSense. It's one of the best controllers out there. But it was already that for $70, and I'm just not seeing how this is worth nearly triple the price. The case it comes in has a feature where you can set this thing up to charge the controller when it's resting inside. Never mind, I love extra features on products. For example, in addition to everything else, I could choke to death on this if I wanted to. Don't get it twisted, this is a very high quality controller, but it's also the most overpriced of the bunch I've seen here. $200 for worse battery life than bad battery life? Only a professional would know how to cope with that. Yeah, I gotta be honest, as nice as these controllers are, as much as I do like them and see their usefulness, they're only really worth it if you're able to squeak out professional gameplay with a normal controller, which at that point, the ability to perform isn't coming from the Pro controller, it was in you all along.
So pace.
I think I learned my lesson.
Scott has re-entered the chili cook-off, and this time with no professional video game controller in sight. All he needs is a regular one.
Hey y'all, Scott here, or should I say, professional.
I can't believe he actually said it. I'm so happy I was missing that from the beginning of the video. This video could have talked about 8-bit do controllers, which are kind of cute. They have nice D-pads, I think. But, I mean, he covered a whole lot of controllers through, like, console history, which I thought was neat. There was also, like, the PS2, like, Mad Catz era, I think, and, like, the other knockoff controllers that were kind of bad, but had a turbo button. That's how, like, I became familiar with turbo buttons. But they were cool. The video was cool. I really liked a lot of, like, the things he talked about, and the bits were really funny. This one had some of the more, like, wacky, like, humor out of the other Scott videos I've watched. He definitely committed to the bit, for real. Scott is pro controller. Love to hear such a brave statement. So true. Scott loves destroying stuff. I like that. Destroying stuff is fun. Like after Scott makes a roof tiling joke, you'd expect that his roof would fall on him in the next scene, but nope, he just gets shot instead. Yeah. Switch Pro D-pad. Yeah, the Switch Pro D-pad is so silly. Yeah, he is way more over the top in this video. That's for real. 30-minute episode. I mean, overpriced controllers have a lot to talk about. It says old background for his original place for the original Xbox controller shot. Hey, look.
This sucks. So to have this one.
Cool. But standard for most is professional to Nintendo. Real. Yeah. Okay, this person's saying the Elite controller was really good for the competitive shooters. Oh, this makes sense actually. Oh, claw gripping. Yeah. And I hate claw grip too, so that's valid. I'm not a fan. With That's insane. I mean, this person's a genius. I had a friend with a Pro SNES controller. He set it up in Mario RPG to max out his stats. Just left it on, walked away, and came back fully leveled up. Flew through the whole game after that. Like a... Oh. Yeah, like he did the Scott here at the end. That was so scary. We're not gonna comment about this, but yes. Belongs in a no context video.
Taller than me. But after messing around with these, it's become very apparent that while I appreciate and respect the hell out of these products for their level of customization and tremendous build quality, I get nothing out of this. Well, outside of owning very expensive controllers.
Okay, there was not more.
Holy f***, I'm awesome. Maybe
Okay, I mean, that one was fun. Anyways. Yeah. This was a good video. I had fun. Thank you for watching, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, evening, year, anything, for real. I hope the events leading up to you watching this video were good. See you. Bye. Hey folks, thank you for watching the video. Remember to like it, follow on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.